tough decks left remaining in his lineup. And this is what Jason planned for. He planned to specifically target those weak decks that Hamster had. And now he's throwing out the Warrior again. He's saving Priest and Paladin for last.
He played the Paladin once, did not go well against the mid-range Shaman for him. Jason just really navigating that resource war very well. The Cthulhu Warrior here against the Druid for Jason. Jason is playing the Malygos version of Druid, so crucially, that makes it better against a lot of the more controlling decks. Not this one, though. The Malygos Druid has the power of late-game burst damage, which makes it very effective against the healing classes, the Priest and the Paladin. It's not nearly as effective against the armor gain of Warrior in this matchup. And
Warrior usually does have enough removal tools to deal with the big threats that Druid has to offer. There's Arcane Giants, Malygos, Ragnaros, but the early game isn't really filled with many minions, it's all spells. So you give that Warrior time, and the thing about Cthulhu Warrior is that it has an inevitable win condition of its own. You're not gonna have all the time in the world. As soon as the Warrior draws into Cthulhu in the late game, all of a sudden you have a big threat to worry about on your hands as Druid. And Jason does have the mulch to deal with it, but it's going to be tough.
Yeah, one of the big things about Cthulhu Warrior in this matchup is that it can go aggressive. It doesn't just have to sit back and wait and see, okay, can I deal with each thing you play? The kind of classic Control Warrior plan of exhaust you of threats, that's not what Cthulhu Warrior is really doing. Cthulhu Warrior is building to, like you said, that kind of inevitable win condition in the late game, and it can put pressure on in the mid game as well, and just individual mid-sized minions is not what Druid is at the best of dealing with.
No, not at all, and this is going to be one of those moments where Hamster is going to start that minion pressure. And JasonZhou, even though he had the Raven Idol as an early tool, he missed the Wild Growth, which is crucial to the game plan of the Druid. They need to get ahead in this matchup.
Yeah, and Jason here, he has the Fandral, but the threat of any kind of additional damage from Hamster would allow Elise to take down the Fandral as well. He's going to go ahead and use the Barrel Rage to do 4 damage to that, and looks like he's actually just setting up a swipe for next turn.
Yeah, interesting. Swipe won't match up well against Cthulhu's Chosen. He does have the Living Roots to do so, but what he could do is Fandral Living Roots. But then he still doesn't deal with the Cthulhu's Chosen. Is swipe Living Roots, is that what you want to be doing at this stage in the game to remove these threats?
He can just swipe the face and use the Living Roots there. It's not necessarily what your optimal play this turn, but you don't want to fall behind. The Druid deck really wants to be the one putting the pressure on the Warrior and not the one reacting. So if you leave your opponent with threats, it can make things dicey later on. For instance, he'd love to play Azure Drake. He is going to go ahead and just use the Force of Nature. It's crucial to note that Hamster's board doesn't really deal with this terribly well with what he has in play already. Each of the individual minions does line up very well against those. So this is kind of a proactive / reactive play because it gives Jason the tools to take down the minions that Hamster's deployed.
Yeah, very true. Living Roots, keep in mind, you talked about earlier that this has a limited amount of damage, which is good against the healing classes, but not so good against the armor classes. So you do want to try and save those damage spells, but it's very hard at times against Cthulhu Warrior. And one thing that's good for Hamster is he's going to have the Justicar True Heart on 6. So he's going to be able to start building up those huge totals of armor to get out of range of any of the Malygos damage ranges that Jason can play.
Hamster might be a little scared of just dropping that Justicar this turn and leaving Jason with Fandral, though. Fandral is a really scary minion to leave in play. The Hamster doesn't have a clean answer to it either. He has the Shield Slam, but only 3 armor right now. He can attack into it, then armor up and Shield Slam. That's not really what he wants to be using his Shield Slams for either.
Yeah, but Jason drew his secret weapon that's now been revealed.
Ooh, it is Yogg waiting in Jason's hand. That's a card that is not terribly effective in this kind of matchup. Yogg, usually a card that's good at getting you back into a game when you're behind, but not nearly as powerful as it once was prior to the change at just generating additional resources in a matchup that's kind of more based on attrition.
Usually you like to use it early just to provide a threat, to minimize the impact that it has on you and to provide a threat. If it produces minions of its own, that's when it's at its best case scenario against Warrior.
I just like to use Yogg early, often, whenever, let's do it.
You really want to save Yogg to use it early, but also late. Sometimes you can even use it mid.
What you want to do is Yogg and ensure that Yogg casts Gang Up on Yogg, so you get to Yogg again and again. But the Feral Rage for Jason off the Raven Idol here gives him a little bit more reach, potentially, if Hamster does generate one of those big armor totals. And Hamster, though, he has a great answer to this Azure Drake. A Gore Howl is waiting in the hand.
It is.
And it's going to come down, chop down that Drake. Jason does have a copy of Harrison Jones in his list, so Hamster needs to be a little bit careful, a little bit leery of what the result of this will be. Or just a little bit scared of the Fire Lord. We've seen a lot of Ragnaros so far this match. That's a lot of damage.
And right now, Hamster doesn't have a direct way to answer this Ragnaros. He can use Beckoner of Evil and then Brawl. Well, he can answer it now, but he has to take another 8 damage.
Yeah, this is a big chunk of damage Hamster's taking here, potentially 16 from Ragnaros. And we were mentioning how crucial that armor total is in this matchup because of the burst damage potential of the Malygos deck.
And how much damage does Jason have in his hand next?
He has
He's
a
got
lot.
Double Feral Rage, Hero Power plus Moonfire. That's 10 damage from hand. Is there any way he can deal more than that?
It's not quite.
He'd be 1 mana off from Double Feral Rage Swipe.
But the Beckoner of Evil does get Cthulhu up to the 12/12. He has the Ancient Shield Bearer in his hand. Jason,
He's 1 damage off.
he is so... Oh, it's Moonfire!
No way!
I think that's it. 2 Feral Rages, 9, 10. It's exact lethal from JasonZhou with the second Moonfire.
Lethal. And Jason,
He's just counting it up. Usually Moonfire for 1 isn't how you finish the game off against a Control Warrior.
my
but
goodness.
in this instance, Feral Rage plus Feral Rage, Moonfire plus Moonfire, that's 11 damage with the hero power. JasonZhou is going to go up to a 3-1 lead against Hamster.
he dodged a rough matchup for his Druid deck. It is able to really put Hamster in a tough spot, having Paladin, Priest, and Warrior left remaining.
Yeah, definitely not the situation Hamster wants to